The story of modern China is one of dramatic transformation, a journey that has seen the nation rise from devastation to become a global powerhouse. In just a few generations, China has undergone changes that would take other countries centuries to achieve, reshaping not only its own destiny but also the fate of the world. For over a century, foreign invasions, internal strife, and famine left deep scars on the nation. The people endured unimaginable hardship, as wars and poverty tore families apart and left entire regions in ruin. The pain of these years is etched into the collective memory of the Chinese people. The so-called century of humiliation saw China brought to its knees, its sovereignty repeatedly violated by foreign powers. Humiliating treaties, lost territories, and the constant threat of invasion left the country fractured and vulnerable, struggling to find its place in a rapidly changing world. Yet, from this hardship, a new nation would emerge, reborn through revolution and struggle. The Chinese people, united by a desire for renewal, rose up to reclaim their future. Through years of sacrifice and determination, they laid the foundations for a new era. This is the story of how the People's Republic of China rose to global prominence, reshaping the world in ways few could have imagined. From the ashes of the past, China has become a central player on the world stage, influencing global trade, politics, and culture. The journey was marked by bold experiments, tragic missteps, and the resilience of its people. From the sweeping changes of collectivization to the turmoil of the Cultural Revolution, each chapter brought both hope and hardship. Yet, through it all, the spirit of the Chinese people endured, adapting and persevering. From Mao Zedong's revolution to Deng Xiaoping's reforms, China charted a unique course. Under Mao, the nation sought unity and strength through revolution. Later, Deng's pragmatic vision opened China to the world, unleashing a wave of economic growth and modernization that would transform every aspect of society. The world watched in awe as China transformed from a fractured agrarian society to a high-tech powerhouse. Cities grew skyward, factories hummed with innovation, and millions were lifted out of poverty. The pace of change was breathtaking, and the scale unprecedented. Today, China stands as a titan of the 21st century, its influence felt worldwide. Its high-speed trains connect distant provinces, its companies compete on the global stage, and its vision shapes the future of technology, infrastructure, and diplomacy. Understanding this rise is crucial for understanding our world. China's story is not just about one nation's revival, it is about the shifting balance of power, the interconnectedness of economies, and the challenges and opportunities of a new global era. It's a story of resilience, power, and the dramatic remaking of the modern era. The determination of its people, the vision of its leaders, and the lessons of its past continue to shape China's path forward. And its next chapters are still being written, as a new generation steps forward to define what China and the world will become in the years ahead. On October 1, 1949, Mao Zedong stood atop Tiananmen Gate and declared the founding of the People's Republic of China. This moment marked a turning point in Chinese history, as the world watched a new era begin in Beijing. The air was filled with hope and uncertainty, as thousands gathered in Tiananmen Square to witness the birth of a nation that had endured decades of war and chaos. The long and bloody civil war between the communists and the nationalists was finally over. The defeated nationalist forces, led by Chiang Kai-shek, retreated to the island of Taiwan, leaving the mainland in the hands of Mao and his Communist Party. For millions of Chinese, this was both an end and a beginning, a chance to rebuild from the ashes of conflict. For the first time in generations, China was united under a single government. The sense of relief and celebration was palpable in the streets, as people waved flags and cheered for a future free from warlords and foreign occupation. Yet beneath the jubilation, there was also anxiety about what this new era would bring. The nation was exhausted. Years of invasion, civil war, and internal strife had left the economy in ruins. Cities lay in rubble, farmlands were neglected, and millions of people faced hunger and poverty. The Chinese people were desperate for stability, security, and hope. Mao and the Communist Party now faced the monumental task of rebuilding a shattered country. They needed to restore order, revive the economy, and win the trust of a weary population. The challenges were immense, but the leadership was determined to transform China into a strong, modern nation. One of their first major initiatives was sweeping land reform. The communists redistributed land from wealthy landlords to poor peasants, aiming to eliminate centuries-old inequalities in the countryside. This policy won them widespread support among rural communities, who saw the party as champions of their rights and livelihoods. In the early years, China formed a close alliance with the Soviet Union, seeking guidance and aid from their fellow communists. With Soviet assistance, the government launched China's first 5-year plan, focusing on building heavy industry, expanding infrastructure, and laying the foundations for a socialist economy. Industrial output began to grow, and a new socialist culture started to take root. Factories sprang up, workers were celebrated as heroes of the revolution, and young people were encouraged to embrace socialist ideals in schools and workplaces. The dream of a modern, powerful China seemed within reach, but Mao was not content to simply follow the Soviet model. He believed that China's true strength lay not just in machines or foreign blueprints, but in the revolutionary spirit and collective will of its people. He wanted to forge a uniquely Chinese path to socialism. Mao called for mass mobilization, urging peasants and workers to take an active role in transforming society. He believed that the energy and enthusiasm of ordinary people could overcome any obstacle, and that China's future depended on their revolutionary zeal. This conviction would soon lead to a series of radical campaigns, as Mao sought to reshape every aspect of Chinese life. Mass movements, propaganda, and political struggle became central to the communist vision, plunging the nation into a period of upheaval and uncertainty. The stage was set for immense suffering and transformation. As the government pushed forward with ambitious policies, millions would face hardship, famine, and fear. Yet these years would also forge a new national identity and change the course of Chinese history forever. The revolution was far from over. The struggle to define China's future was just beginning, and the coming years would test the limits of the nation's endurance and resolve. China was about to enter a time of turmoil, where dreams of progress would clash with harsh realities, and the fate of millions would hang in the balance. In 1958, Mao Zedong unveiled the Great Leap Forward, a bold and ambitious campaign designed to rapidly transform China from an agrarian society into an industrial powerhouse. The plan called for mass mobilization of the population, with the hope that collective effort could propel the nation into a new era of prosperity and global influence. Private property was abolished as communes sprang up across the countryside. Peasants, driven by revolutionary zeal, were encouraged to build backyard furnaces, melting down their own pots, pans, and farming tools in a desperate attempt to produce steel. The government believed that sheer willpower and unity could overcome technical limitations. But the results were catastrophic. Poor planning, inflated production reports, and misguided policies led to widespread crop failures. The countryside was gripped by a devastating famine, as food shortages became acute and millions struggled to survive. The human cost was staggering. Tens of millions perished in one of the deadliest famines in history. Mao's reputation, once unassailable, was deeply tarnished as the scale of the disaster became undeniable. In the aftermath, pragmatic leaders like Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping quietly took the reins, rolling back radical policies and steering the country toward economic recovery. They reintroduced some market mechanisms and allowed limited private farming, which helped stabilize food production and ease suffering. Yet Mao saw these reforms as a betrayal of his revolutionary ideals. In 1966, determined to reassert his authority and revive the revolutionary spirit, he launched the Cultural Revolution, a movement that would plunge China into even deeper turmoil. Mao called upon the youth, mobilizing millions of Red Guards to attack the four olds: old customs, culture, habits, and ideas, and to purge the Communist Party of those he deemed disloyal. The nation spiraled into chaos. Schools and universities were shut down, intellectuals and teachers were publicly humiliated, beaten, or sent to labor camps. Priceless cultural relics and ancient traditions were destroyed in a frenzy of revolutionary fervor. A cult of personality around Mao reached unprecedented heights. His image was everywhere, on posters, in songs, and in the hearts of millions who chanted his name and carried his little red book. The Cultural Revolution became a kind of civil war, pitting neighbor against neighbor and tearing at the very fabric of Chinese society. The struggle was not just political, but a battle for the soul and future of the nation. By the time the movement subsided, China was left deeply scarred, its people exhausted, its economy in shambles, and its society fractured. The country was isolated from the world, searching for a path forward. The need for a new direction was urgent. The trauma of the past decades weighed heavily, and the nation stood at a crossroads, uncertain but hopeful for change. That long-awaited change finally began with the death of Mao in 1976, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in China's history. Mao's death in 1976 ended an era of turmoil. By 1978, Deng Xiaoping emerged as China's new leader, offering a pragmatic path forward. Deng's four modernizations aimed to strengthen agriculture, industry, defense, and science. "It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice," he famously said. Ideological purity gave way to economic development. Deng dismantled the commune system, giving families control over their land. Agricultural production soared, lifting millions from poverty. Deng's approach was gradual, crossing the river by feeling the stones. Policies were tested on a small scale, then expanded. This cautious experimentation set China on a new trajectory. The era of reform and opening up had begun. China was ready to engage with the world. Deng's strategy included opening up to the world. Special economic zones like Shenzhen became laboratories for capitalism within socialism. Foreign investment and market policies transformed sleepy towns into booming cities. China's factories began producing goods for the world, fueling rapid growth. The success of SEZs led to nationwide reforms and deeper global integration. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization, signaling its commitment to the global economy. China became the world's factory, driving down prices and powering its own rise. The party maintained control, even as capitalism flourished. China's unique model challenged the international order. The economic miracle was underway. After Deng's reforms, China's economy grew at nearly 10% per year for decades. Cities rose from farmland and infrastructure transformed the landscape. State investment and foreign capital fueled manufacturing might. Hundreds of millions moved from villages to cities, creating a new consumer class. Over 800 million people escaped extreme poverty, a historic achievement. Life expectancy soared, literacy rates climbed, and modern amenities became widespread. China became the world's largest trading partner and a global economic engine. Its appetite for resources reshaped markets worldwide. Chinese companies went global, investing and building abroad. The world's factory was now also a global investor. China's rise was changing the world. In 2012, Xi Jinping took the helm, ushering in a new era. Xi's Chinese dream called for national rejuvenation and global prestige. He launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign, consolidating power and reasserting party control. Centralized planning replaced cautious experimentation. The focus expanded to include environmental protection, tech innovation, and reducing inequality. China invested heavily in high-tech industries, aiming for global leadership in AI, robotics, and 5G. Tech giants like Huawei and Alibaba became global innovators. China's digital economy outpaced the world. Xi's era also saw a more assertive foreign policy. The Belt and Road Initiative connected continents with Chinese-built infrastructure. China asserted its claims in the South China Sea and took a leading role in global institutions. The era of hiding and biding was over. China now sought to shape the world order. China's rise has sparked mixed reactions worldwide. Many developing nations see China as a vital partner, building infrastructure and offering an alternative to Western aid. China's model of state-led growth appeals to governments seeking stability. In the West, optimism about engagement has given way to strategic competition. Concerns over trade imbalances, intellectual property, and state subsidies have grown. China's military and technological advances have raised security fears. The US-China rivalry now defines global geopolitics. Nations are caught between their top economic partner and security guarantor. This competition plays out in trade, technology, and diplomacy. The world is no longer unipolar. The US-China relationship will shape global affairs for decades. The stakes have never been higher. As China stands tall in 2025, new challenges loom. An aging population and shrinking workforce threaten future growth. The legacy of the one-child policy strains social safety nets. China must shift from investment-driven growth to innovation and consumption. Debt levels and financial risks are rising. US restrictions make technological self-sufficiency harder. Abroad, China's assertive policies have sparked criticism and regional tensions. The Belt and Road faces accusations of debt-trap diplomacy. Strategic rivalry with the US risks miscalculation and conflict. Managing these challenges will test China's leaders. The story of China is still unfolding. Understanding its journey is essential for our global future. The next chapter is being written now.